Okay, so we're ready to start chapter 4 now. Maybe I can keep my hand out of the thing. Okay, so we're ready to start chapter. I promise we are. Introduction to decimal numbers. Hopefully this is going to go fast. Reading and writing a decimal number. This is like the slowest one of all, I hope, for what we're doing today. So for the reading and writing a decimal number, you have to read the whole number part first, which is the left part of the decimal number. So if I had something like this number, we would read the 3 part first because it's to the left of the decimal, and then we would read our decimal point, which is read and, so it's 3 and then we would read this whole part, which we would read like it was its own number. So that's the 842. So that's 3 and 842. And then we have to read the place value of the very last digit. So this is tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So that's 3 and 842 thousandths. So we would have to write it as 3 and 842 thousandths. If you don't know your place value, you need to learn them. So there are some people who never learned them. So a short little introduction to it. You have the hundreds on the left-hand side, and then you have your tens, and then you have your ones place, and then you have your decimal point, and then you have your tenths with the THS. Then you have your hundreds with the THS. Then your thousandths with the THS. Didn't spell that right. Then your 10,000ths. With the THS. Then your 100,000ths. With the THS. Then you get to the millions with the THS. Everything on the right-hand side is going to end in THS. That's how you know it's on the right-hand side. So if you ever have a number that ends on the right-hand side of the decimal, you know it's going to end in a THS. Comparing two positive decimal numbers. Moving from left to right, you compare the digits with the same place value. So if I were comparing 6.5 and 2.3, we compare the 6 to the 2 first from left to right. The 6 is bigger than the 2, so we know this number is bigger than that number. If they were the same, like 6.5 and 6.3, since they're the same, then I go to the next number. 5 and 3. This one's bigger than that one, so we know that this is bigger than that. It's that simple. Comparing two negative decimal numbers. If I have negative 4.5 and negative 6.7, this one and this one, this is smaller than that, but they are both negative. So the smaller one is the larger number. That's because the smaller number is closer to 0. And on your number line, the one closer to 0 for negatives puts it further to the right. And further to the right is larger. So when we're comparing down here, this one is more negative. The 4.7, negative 4.7 is right there. The negative 4.78 is right there. So the negative 4.7 is further to the right, and therefore it is more larger. Than the other one. Over here, you get the negative 5.3 and negative 5.32. The negative 5.3 is larger than negative 5.32. The rules for rounding decimal numbers. This one, you need to like star. You need to I don't know, get this tattooed on somebody. Not necessarily you, but on somebody. Somebody needs to have it tattooed because it is what everybody needs to know and what you get asked the absolute most from now until the end of eternity in math class. This is it. And what most people tend to forget is that when you're asking about rounding, you never talk about the actual place they're asking you about. You talk about the place to the right of where they're asking you about. So if they're asking you about 6.523, if they're asking you about the tenths place, they want you to look at the place behind it. You always look at the place behind where they're asking you about. So if they're asking you about the tenths, you look at the place behind it. Always look at the place behind it, the place to the right of the digit of the desired accuracy. If that digit is less than 5, 2 is less than 5, so that means that this 5 stays the same, and we make everything behind it go to 0. Everything in front of it stays the same. So this is going to end up being 6.5. You don't have to write the zeros if it's after the decimal point. If instead I'd been asking about the ones place, then that would have been 6, and we'd be looking at the 5. And since the 5 is 5 or greater, that means we make this place go up by 1. So that makes it a 7. Everything behind it would go to 0. So that makes it go away because it's behind the decimal point. Everything in front of it stays the same. Could we write 7.0? Sure, but we don't have to. You need to practice rounding. You'll be using it a ton. A ton. They want us to write this in decimal notation. Use your calculator. For everything, use your calculator. If we have 2 5/7, we can put this in our handy dandy calculator, hit the second and then the fraction key, and it'll allow us to put in there 2, and then I go over and put the 57 over 100. They want it in decimal notation, so I go over. I want to change it from fraction to decimal, so I hit my second key and then my fraction decimal. Press enter. 2.57. Could you have done it without the calculator? Probably. Do you need to? No. It's okay. Write 20.7 in words. Don't say 20.7. 20. Don't write it like that either. They want words. 20 and 7/10. Because that's the place that it ends in. Write 6 and 28 thousandths. Ooh, it ends in the thousandths place. That ends in the hundredths place. I gotta add a 0 in there, so it'll be in my thousands place. Then they want me to average this. No, arrange it. Sorry, I can read. Arrange this. I was like, they don't know how to average it. Arrange this in order from smallest to largest. Then graph the numbers on a number line. Which one's the smallest? Well, the one without the 2 in it is going to be the smallest. So I got my 0 down here. .17 can be there. 0.20 can be there. And 0.26 can be there. No negatives, so it's going to go in order. They want us to round this to the nearest 10,000ths. Says the digit in the 10,000ths position is. Let's see if I can get this a little bit clearer for you. There you go. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. That's a 5. The next digit to the right is 2. Since 2 is less than 5, I leave 5 as it is and replace 2 with 0. So this rounds to 3.0065 to the nearest 10,000ths. They had to walk me through it. That's a lot of work. Addition and subtraction with decimal numbers. Technically, what you do is you add the numbers vertically. Keep the decimals aligned, keep the place values lined up. And since the decimals are aligned, it should all work. So that's 9.0 and then 4.86 and then 37.479 and then 0.6. So it would look something like that. And you'd add them all up. Fill in with zeros where you need to, so that it would work out. I'm just saying, it's here for a reason. Let's go ahead and use it. So I have 9 plus 4.86 plus 37.479 plus 0.6. Enter. 51.939. Hey, look, we're right. There's no need for all this lining up mess. You know how to do it if you had to do it by hand, but nobody has to do it by hand. You have a calculator for that. You have a calculator for that. Let's use the calculator for that. Just saying. We have a calculator for that. 42.0667. Hey, look, we're right. Just saying. Subtracting. you line up your numbers vertically. It's the exact same way that you would do it if you were subtracting. Line up your numbers vertically, line up your decimal points, so forth and so on. Hey, look, they went ahead and lined them up for you. Does it matter? No. Why? Because we have a calculator for that. Just saying. Here, if it makes you feel better. 850.0, carry the 1. 50. Because I can add like that. 2 minus 1 is 1. 3, 1, 1, 1. There it is. Here, bunch of negatives and minus signs. Make sure when you punch in here, you know which is which. So we have a negative 88.6. I know it's negative because you can't start out with the subtraction sign. Minus, because there's a parentheses, I know that's going to be a negative 91.9. Close my parentheses, press enter. 3.3. Hey, look, we're right. Down here, they want us to simplify. All of these have an X. So all I need to do is add my numbers or subtract my numbers in front. Here's the problem. This has 8.3 plus, what's in front of this X? That's right. There is a 1 there. They didn't write the 1 there, but it's there. Don't forget it. Minus the 22.7. How do I know there's a 1 there? Because you can't just have an X. There has to be a certain number of X's. You don't just have a banana. You have 1 banana. You don't just say, hey, look, I got a banana. You have to tell them how many bananas you have. You have 1 banana. So that's negative 13.4. Okay, that takes care of the adding and subtracting. Look, we're going through 4.1 and 4.2, just like that. And guess what? We're doing 4.3, all in the same video. Can you believe it? I know. I didn't expect this either, but we're going to do it because it's multiplying and dividing. When you're multiplying and dividing numbers, multiplying, you just multiply the integers like before, count up the number of decimals behind, the number of places behind the decimal in the problem, and then that's how many places you have to have behind the decimal in the answer. That's how you multiply decimals. So if I had 6.50 times 0.2, 2 times 6.5, carry my 1, 12, 13, would give me that. I've got 1, 2, 3 places behind decimal points, so I need 3 places here. That's how you do decimals. However, we are going to do it with the calculator because we have it. When you're multiplying with powers of 10, like 10, 100, 1000, when you have a 1 with a whole bunch of zeros behind it, those number of zeros, that's how many zeros you add. You count the number of zeros. That tells you how many decimal points you move. That's it. That's how many decimal points you move. And then there's this little note about terminating decimals and non-terminating decimals. I think you're probably going to have a question about that in the homework. So I included that. If it's terminating, that means that it stops. If it's non-terminating, keeps on going. It can either be repeating like this, or it could have a dot, dot, dot behind it. So here, they want you to divide and then round to the nearest tenth. So when I go to divide, I'm going to have 82.3 divided by 2.9. Press enter. Gives me this long thing. 37931034. But they want me to say to the nearest tenth. This is my tenths place. I need to look at the number behind it. This is 5 or more, so that makes this one go up. So that's going to make it 28.4. Here we have 83.5 divided by 5.6. Press my enter. I get 14.91071429. Go ahead and write it all out so that you can see the whole number. They want it to the nearest tenth. That's my tenths place. This is where I look. This does not make that go up because it's not 5 or higher. So that makes that 14.9 because I stop where I underline. Dividing numbers works the same way as multiplying numbers, just tells you how far you move your decimal. You just move it in the other direction. So they want us to multiply or divide. Here we're going to be multiplying 5.6 times a negative 0.02. Press enter and get a negative 0.112. You don't have to put the 0 in front if you don't want to. I do sometimes, I don't sometimes. 10 times negative 45.6 gives me negative 456. Moved my decimal over one place. Negative 101.62 divided by 9 equals negative 0.18. And then 167 divided by 10 equals 16.7. Move my decimal over. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And that's it. I'll let you go for right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.